Look at her.
Hi, Julia. Hi, Julia. Can you hear me?
Hey, Jeff.
Oh, good. I always get nervous about that.
I can't hear you. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Hmm.
I pinned you and made you the host. Let me check. Let's see. Yeah, I don't know what else to.
Sure.
Hmm.
Okay, I hear you now.
Oh, good.
Okay, there you
All
go.
right. Yeah, still getting used to Zoom here, so.
No, that's okay.
Oh, good. And I pinned you, so you're the featured screen now. So,
Okay, great.
yeah. So how are you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you?
All right.
You're not in the gym tonight, I see.
No, I was in earlier.
Okay.
Then we had one of our Zoom workouts about an hour
Okay.
ago. So, how about
Jess
you?
Jess told me she was in practice tonight, so she wouldn't be able to.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, she's in the gym right now, back in the
Right,
gym. Since you guys
right.
had practice today sometime, I
Yeah,
assume.
we practiced 4 to 6.
Oh, okay. Well, that worked out nice.
Right.
You got your season starting in the next week or?
Yeah, our first games are Friday. We have two
Oh,
Friday and one Saturday, so
that's
we are
exciting. Feels
getting.
weird, doesn't it?
It
In
is
January,
weird to have a season in January. Yeah, it's
the
off.
snow on the ground and
But we
yeah.
are very excited to be playing.
Oh,
So
I'm sure. Gosh,
we'll,
especially considering some schools aren't playing much.
right, right.
Aurora University, where my younger daughter goes, they have like 5 matches on their schedule. That's it.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah, we have like not a full schedule, but relatively full, give or take. So we're really thankful that we get in a significant season, hopefully.
Yeah, right. Yeah, so hopefully, yeah, that'll be great. Looks like you have just conference matches pretty much, or
Yeah, we have maybe 8 non-conference matches and then the rest conference. So felt like we got a good amount on our calendar. Just, I mean, with half the NAI playing in the fall and half of them playing now, it was tricky to get non-conference games. So I'm happy for the ones we have.
oh yeah, that'll be that'll be great. Especially with the gym, I'm sure it's pretty crowded between basketball and
Yes.
men and women's volleyball. Wow.
Yeah. Men and women's basketball, men and women's volleyball are all in season right now. So it's interesting,
Yeah,
to say the least.
yeah. Hopefully it'll be the only time.
Right, right. I'm like, okay, hopefully we never have to do this again.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I can't even imagine practicing. How do you figure that out?
Yeah, the gym schedule is crazy, but
Right.
it's good we make it happen. So are we waiting for a couple more or should we?
Yeah, if you don't mind, maybe one more minute.
Yeah, no,
Our
it's
Zoom
totally fine.
workout just ended like an hour ago, so it's a lot of Zoom for the kids. So hopefully they had time to eat. And
Yeah,
come back on.
Do you do Zoom workouts, and then are you also able to practice in the gym
Yeah, we're starting our team practices back again today was our first
today?
team
Okay.
practice back.
That's great.
Yeah, so hopefully it'll be for the rest of the season.
From here on out, right?
Right.
So
I don't,
Zoom practices or workouts, what do those look like for you guys?
we've just hired a fitness studio in Wheaton that,
Okay.
so they have one of their trainers runs a Zoom from their studio, and then the
Interesting.
kids just log in through Zoom and
So it's
they
like
do it.
at-home body workouts type of things.
Yeah, which is nice. I mean, they try to I asked them to mix it up between agility, strength, and some leaping ability, just working on different
Yeah,
types of exercises. So, yeah, I mean, it's gone pretty well,
good.
but
Nothing
hopefully,
like being together though.
yeah, it's nice. But we used to do a lot of dual team practices where we'd have two teams on one court, and we can't do that according to the state right now. So it's
Okay.
supposed to only be one team at a time, but
One
but
team
it's
on a court.
right, which
Okay.
is fine. It's just you don't get as much 6-on-6 stuff, but at
Yeah. No,
this
I
point
hear
we'll
that.
take anything we can get. So,
Right. Right. At this point, yeah, you
right.
take whatever you can get.
And then we have a tournament in Indiana coming up in a couple of weeks. So
Is that
that'll
on
be
the weekend of the 30th?
right.
That one? Okay.
Yeah, it's in Hammond, right across the border. So
Okay.
yeah, so we're making do with whatever we can figure out. So
Yeah, no, that's kind of how this year has been. It's just like whatever you get, whenever you can get in the gym, whatever touches is
yeah,
what you got to do.
exactly. So anyway, I don't want to waste any more of your time. I guess if you don't mind, we'll just jump right in
Okay.
um, and
I'll
yeah,
just start by introducing myself and then I can
yeah,
talk
yeah,
and
that'd
we'll
be fine because I don't
kind of go
think
from
they
there.
can hear me right now. So
Okay. I So we're good.
yeah, they should all hear you now. Yeah.
Okay. Well, hi, my name is Julia Fahy. I am the head women's volleyball coach at Judson University. I have been the head coach there for a little over 3 years and absolutely love my job and getting to work with athletes and volleyball players, much like yourselves, just on the next level that way. Um, I have coached 2 seasons with the women's and 1 season as the interim men's coach. So I've coached both girls and boys volleyball at the college level. Before I was at Judson, I was a graduate assistant at Olivet Nazarene University, which is about an hour and a half south of Chicago. I did that for 2 years. I was the assistant there. And then in college, when I played, I was a setter. So if we have any setters out there, um, I'm all about it. Go Setters. But yeah, so Coach Jeff has just asked me to come on tonight and talk a little bit about, as a college coach, what we look for in recruits. And then kind of just a couple different, hopefully helpful tips and tricks when it comes to being effectively recruited, putting together a skills or a highlight tape, sending film, all of those things. Zoom is funky. I'm talking to a bunch of black screens. If you have questions, please feel free to unmute yourself, hop on and ask. I'll probably talk for about 15 minutes and then open up the floor for questions. So if you'd rather wait and ask towards the end, that kind of works too. So the main and the first question that I kind of wanted to start with is just what a college coach looks for in a recruit. And to start this off, I think it's going to be a little bit different for every college coach. Every coach is different and may have different particular things that they're looking for. But I wanted to just cover a general basis of things that I know among my colleagues and me, myself, and my staff that we look for when we're making recruiting decisions. So the first thing that maybe goes without saying, but I don't think so these days, is that we just look for base athleticism. We want to see that you can run fast, move fast, that you have the agility, the jump, and the quickness to compete at the next level. So as I was talking with Coach Jeff, it sounds like you guys have been doing different workouts to work on all of those things. And I think that's great. We want to see from your play and your film and your practice that you have the body awareness, the quickness, like I said, the strength to compete at that next level. If that's something you feel like you kind of struggle with, there are so many resources out there, trainers or gyms, or even just through your club, of ways that you can work on building those quickness and agility for the sport. And I would highly recommend doing that, because even before we look at talent, we want to just see that you have the ability to be athletic in our gym. The next thing that we're going to look for is that you are playing high level volleyball. So being at Serve City, you're already halfway there, being at a club like this. And at your high school, we kind of look at those two things. So maybe you're like, oh, my high school isn't very good, but you're playing at a good club. And so that's a great thing for coaches to see, that you are playing at a high level. With that comes a high volleyball IQ. So we want to see that you know what to do in certain situations. And those are different things that we look for before COVID, when we came to see you play, and now that we look for in film while we can't get into the gym with all of these athletes right now. But that you are, if you're a DS, not only can you dig the ball and you can serve receive, but you're good under pressure and you could send over a free ball to the right spot, or you know what to do with an out of system ball and where to be. And so just kind of knowing the flow, or even at a basic level, I don't know what age group I'm talking to, that you know how to rotate and you know where to be so that you're not out of position. And so your IQ is going to come in a lot. And we don't want to, or college coaches, I guess, don't want to necessarily have to reteach all of those things. So all of those skills that you're learning in high school and in club are going to be really helpful that way. Another thing that we look for is that you're going to be a good fit for our school and our program. There are so many colleges and universities out there. And I say this all the time, like, if you want to play college volleyball, there is somewhere that you can do that. And so I think it's good to kind of realize what you're looking for and what you want in a school. And you want to find a program that's going to fit both of those things. I talk with my recruits a lot about the school is just as important as the team and the program. If you showed up somewhere on day one and, like, Lord forbid, you broke your leg and you couldn't play volleyball anymore, would you still be happy at the school that you landed at? And I think that's really important to having a positive college experience at whatever level you are hoping to play at. And so making sure to find the school that's going to be a good fit for you. That would be things like, they have your major. If you don't know your major, that's okay. You can figure it out. But if you do, if you want to be a veterinarian, you're going to want to find a school that offers that degree, or that offers a pathway for you to do that. If you want to be at Judson, we have a great architecture program. So if you want to be an architect, like, Judson might be a great fit for you. So making sure that you find a good fit as well. Coaches want you to fit in. We retain athletes that way. And we want to make sure that you have a good experience. Just a couple other things that I want to touch on when it comes to what college coaches are looking for. Another thing that I look for all the time in recruits is that they're a good teammate and that they have a good attitude. When I go out and watch players play, I like to watch my recruits just as much while they're standing on the bench than the actual time they spend on the floor. Obviously, when they're on the floor, I get to assess their skill and their technique and their IQ and their athleticism and all of those things that we've talked about. But I like seeing what they look like on the bench when they get pulled out of a game, or when they're a 3-rotation player and they're not in. Are they cheering on their teammates? Do they have a good attitude? Are they high energy? Does it seem like someone that you would want to be around? Because those are the type of players that we want in our gym. We don't want the really selfish players who stand on the bench and don't cheer for anyone or have a bad attitude. And so I think being mindful of what you're giving at any different point in a game, both on and off the court, is a really important thing. And what kind of teammate you're being. What do you do when the girl next to you messes up? What does your body language look like? Are you giving high fives? Are you communicating? Or are you just walking back without touching or talking to someone to your spot and serve receive because you're angry? So all of those little pieces that we might not always think about when it comes to recruiting are really big, important pieces, especially for me and for our program, just when it comes to the type of player that we are looking to recruit. Two more pieces on this is we want athletes who work hard and are really competitive. So we're always looking for really competitive athletes in our gym because showing up and competing every day is really important to us. So when you come to practice, are you hustling after your balls when you're shagging? Or are you excited for that gameplay moment when you get to show your skills? Are you working hard in that drill to get better at that thing you need to do so that you can be a better player? All of those things are really important. And then I think the last thing, and this is a really important thing that we look for, are just good students. So what you do in high school matters, and your work ethic in the classroom will translate to your work ethic on the court. And so we look for kids with good GPAs, good test scores, and a hard work ethic when it comes to academics. If you're somewhere and you're like, you know what, my GPA isn't that great, or my test score isn't that great, we want to see that you're working to make those things better, because that means you're going to be successful again at the next level when it comes to academics. One little piece of advice, I don't know, again, the age group that I'm talking to, is that I would always encourage my recruits and my players to take the ACT or the SAT early so that you can get a baseline score, and you can send that out to colleges, and then you can take it again and you can show improvement. It's always nice for us to kind of see where you're at or what kind of range you're working in. And I think it always helps to take that test at least twice, if not more. We always usually see improvement that way. And so that would be a small little piece of advice when it comes to college recruiting. It's nice to have that score with you when you start talking to coaches. That was a lot of me talking. That's kind of my wrap up of that specific question, what college coaches look for in recruits. Do we have any questions at this point in time? Or again, like I said, I can kind of wait till the end. All right, I will keep talking. The next thing that I wanted to talk about is just how to effectively get recruited and be recruited. So I coach at Judson University, which is in the NAIA. There are kind of 4 divisions of volleyball that you can play in the United States, which is Division 1, 2, and 3, and then there's the NAIA, and it's kind of different. We would kind of compare to a mid-level D2 school, if that kind of helps put it in perspective of the type of athletes that we're looking for and working with. D2 or some high-level D3s that way. But anyway, so when it comes to be effective, to effectively get recruited, if college volleyball is a goal of yours, we just had a couple quick notes that I wanted to run through. The first one is that it's really important, I think, on your behalf to initiate contact with the coach or with the school that you are interested in. Sometimes I think a lot of players think, oh, well, my friend got a letter from this school, and so I'm kind of hoping someone sends me a letter. Don't wait till you receive a letter or a text or a phone call. If you're thinking about college and you know you want to play, send those coaches an email. I think that's usually a great first step, and just introducing yourself, telling them a little bit about you and about your play, and all of that. And then in that email, you're going to want to send film. And I will get to the send film part in just a little bit. But I just want to make sure, don't send an email if you don't have any film. Try to get that first, because those two usually go hand in hand for us when it comes to filtering through all of the emails that we get. But yeah, so you want to communicate. There are different divisions, have different rules. So if you're trying to play Division 1 or Division 2 or Division 3, there might be a different set of rules when it comes to contacting coaches or them being able to contact you. In the NAIA, we like to think that we don't have as many rules. So it kind of depends. Make sure you know what level of play you're looking at and what level of play that you're emailing that coach, if they're able to respond to you or not. Usually it depends on your age and where you kind of are in that process. But again, you can never get in trouble by just initiating contact yourself and introducing yourself. Once you have initiated contact, and it's good, I would say, to continue to communicate. As college coaches, we get tons of emails and inquiries all the time. And so sometimes it helps when we know that the players are interested when they're also communicating back to us. So if a coach sends you an email or you send an email and they respond, make sure that you're responding in a timely manner. Or even if you haven't heard anything back in let's say a month or so, maybe sending another email updating them about your club season, how your training's going, what you're working on, what's happening in your life or at school, and kind of being able to show your personality through that, I think also really helps. We get, like I said, so many emails. So being able to kind of remember who you are when you do show your personality is going to help you stick in a coach's mind that way. And that's going to help you stand out. For us, I know people ask timing, like when should I start the recruiting process? And timing is kind of a very big variable depending on, again, level of play and where you're looking for. But if you're thinking D2, D3, or NAIA, I think it's usually good to start your recruiting process around your junior year. Maybe it's the end of your fall. For us, at Judson, we really focus on spring of your junior year being a big recruiting season for us. So if you're a junior and you're in your spring, you're after, Christmas break, that's kind of when we spend those 6 to 8 months from January to August, I would say, is our main recruiting season for that class of athletes. Sometimes we talk to people earlier and sometimes we recruit people later. So I don't think you're going to be wrong if you're not right there. But I think ideally your spring of your junior year is a really good time to be sending those emails and kind of start thinking about that next step. Another thing I wanted to mention is if there are a couple schools you're interested in, maybe one school in particular, no matter how old you are, a really good thing that you can do is to go to that school's summer camp. So even if you're a 7th grader and you're like, maybe someday I want to go to this school, try to get to their summer camp. Or if you're a junior and you're like, I think I want to go to these 3 schools, maybe try to go to those 3 camps that summer. It's a really great way to see the university and the campus, to get coached by those specific coaches and see how you interact and work with them, as well as to meet some of the players and the teammates and kind of see if you would be a fit there. It's also a great opportunity for us as coaches to be able to see and evaluate you even more than just coming to one game or one set or one match. We get to see you work through the skills that we're teaching, whether it's a couple days at a time or one day. So I would really encourage, if there's a school that you're interested in, to go to their summer camp. A couple more points just when it comes to effectively getting recruited is I always talk to my athletes about visiting more than one school. So like I said, I think that if your goal is to play college volleyball, you can do that. But it might mean you have to visit more than one place. It might mean that I always tell my recruits to go on 3 to 5 visits so that you can get a feel of what their campus is like, if you would enjoy living there, what their student population and community is like. So it's really good not only just go to one place, but to get some perspective, maybe visit like 3 or 4 schools that you're interested in. And then I think another point on that is just to have a reasonable timeline in mind when it comes to being recruited. And a good question to ask coaches is what their timeline is as well. Like I said, for us at Judson, we really focus on the spring of your junior year, January to August. Some coaches wait until athletes are in their senior year. So you might reach out to them, let's say February of your junior year, and they say, we're not really recruiting this class until this fall. And that might help you understand kind of where they are. So that's always a really good question to ask coaches. What is their timeline like when it comes to recruiting your position for your specific class? And then the last thing I kind of wanted to mention, I know we don't have a ton of time here, is when it comes to sending film, like I talked about. So in that email where you're going to initiate contact, it's really, really important to include film. If you send an email to a coach and they can't see you, they can't see that base athleticism or that high level of play or the talent that you have, those are the emails that don't often get responded to because we get so many of them. So make sure in your initial contact that you are including some kind of film. It's going to help the coach evaluate you and see if you're going to be a fit for their program. A couple things when it comes to sending film. You can send raw footage, so you can send a set that you feel like you played really well in and it shows everything you want to show, or you can send a highlight tape. We often prefer to see a highlight tape first. This might be a personal preference, before we watch an entire set, because that is a bit more of a time commitment. But whatever you have, if you have anything, you want to send that in that initial contact, like I said. When you're putting together a highlight tape or even just raw footage, we would want to make sure there's a couple things that you do. One, make it really clear who you are. So some people spend tons of money and pay for a really great highlight film, and others make it themselves, and both work. You can get recruited both ways. But it's really important to make sure that I know who I'm watching when I turn the video on. So whether you have to just say, I'm number 22, I'm in the blue jersey, I play left back, or you like pause the film and point to yourself before the clip rolls, whatever that looks like, it's really important that we know who we're watching when we turn that film on. It's sometimes nice to include like a slide at the beginning or the end with your contact information, because again, some of those things can sometimes get lost in the communication process. And then you want to make sure that the clips that you include, if you are sending a highlight film, reflect a high level of play. So don't put the clip in where you look really unathletic or you shank the ball, or if you're not where you're supposed to be, even if you're not touching the ball. You want to make sure that you're sending the right things, obviously, so that you can get noticed, because we all want to get recruited. So find those highlight clips, and you're going to have to spend some time going through your film to do that. But that's going to make a big difference when the coach watches that, because that's the only impression, the first impression that they're going to get of your play. We often prefer film of in-game reps. So as opposed to like a skills tape or just reps in a gym. Obviously, with COVID, things have been crazy. Sometimes we haven't been able to play. So we've watched a lot more skills tape in the last 5 months than we have gameplay. But if you have gameplay, we want to see that. We want to see what you look like in action. But like I said, anything is better than nothing. So send whatever you have. And then I would say the last piece on this one is to just make sure that you put the important stuff in the highlight tape. You want it to be reflective of your talent and position specific. So if you're a middle blocker, we want to see you hit, obviously, but you also need to include blocking. And if you serve as a middle and play defense, then put those towards the end as well. We don't necessarily need to see 2.5 minutes of you serving as a middle blocker. We'd rather see those 2.5 minutes of you hitting and blocking. If you're a DS, we want to see you digging and passing, a little bit of serving, as well as some out of system plays, some hustle plays. So you want to make sure that you are putting the important stuff in your film and that it is position specific. That can be a little bit of a tongue twister. And so we don't, like I said, we don't want to see you serving 100 balls. Like we get a ton of film and a ton of emails, so we don't have time to watch all the little details, but make sure that you're putting in the things that matter and the things that are going to make a difference in the recruiting process. So I think those are my kind of 3 things. I know we're at 8:57, so we're getting a little bit close there. But at this point, I kind of just wanted to open up if anybody has any questions. And hopefully this information was helpful as you guys are kind of in the middle of all of this right now.
Okay, there's a chat question.
I see a chat question. Is there a good length for the recruitment videos? That's a really good question. I would say anywhere from 2 to 5 minutes. And that doesn't mean that I watch it all. So again, put the best stuff at the beginning. But anything over 5 minutes usually gets a little bit, if it's a highlight film, a little bit long for me. And you want it to be more than 30 seconds or 40 seconds. You want to make sure you have enough content that the coach can really evaluate you. So 2 to 5 minutes, but always make sure your best stuff is towards the beginning, because sometimes I'll watch something for about 30 seconds and be like, oh, I 100% want this girl. I don't even need to watch the other 3 minutes. And then I usually will. Or sometimes you watch the first 30 seconds and you're like, she's probably not going to be a fit for where we are at our level of play. And they might not even bother to watch the last 3 minutes. So I would say somewhere around that range. Good question. If we didn't play in high school, should we address that in applications? Oh, that's a really good question. I don't know if I would have mentioned that right away. I think I would talk about the experience that you do have at the club level. And then if your coach does ask those questions, or it will hopefully come up at some point in a recruiting call or in your communication with them, then maybe mention why you didn't play in high school or what your specific situation is and why that is for you. Everybody's different, and I think as coaches we know that. So maybe start with what you do have, which is great club experience, but then make sure to mention that a little bit further down the line or in the next email or the next phone call. Another question, what is the most important quality for setters in your opinion? That's a great question, Gabby. Different things that I look for. I don't know if I can pick one. I think IQ is really important when we're recruiting a setter. So we want someone who understands the game, because at the college level, setting becomes more mental than just physical. But I think another thing that we look for in setters a lot is leadership qualities and potentials, because as a setter, you are touching the ball so much and you kind of are the quarterback in that sense when you're running the offense. And you're kind of the person that holds everything together. So we do want our setters to be really vocal and to be able to kind of direct traffic when necessary. Maybe it's changing a service rotation or whatever your coach gives you the freedom to do. But I would say probably IQ and leadership qualities, other than just talent and technique, would be two of the things that we look for in our setters.
Yeah, Coach, about half the girls on this Zoom are 7th to 9th grade, so they're not quite up to the junior year. Any thoughts that you would, any recommendations or suggestions that you would give them in terms of what they need to be doing to get to that point where their junior year, a school like Judson would recruit them?
Yeah, great question. I think as a 7th to 9th grader, you have a lot going on in your life, but get in the gym and get touches as much as possible. So whenever Surf City is open or they're having a clinic or a camp or a practice or whatever, like always try to be there. I think the more touches you get at your age, the better. And the more you're going to learn from just playing and doing. I also, this is maybe a little bit more of a personal thing, but encourage my middle school athletes to kind of stay involved. If you're a multi-sport athlete, to keep doing that while you can. And so I think that kind of maybe goes with the base athleticism thing. And it means you're probably pretty busy. But if you play another sport as well as volleyball, I would say continue to do that. Continue to hone your skill and your athleticism right now while you're developing your craft. And then when you get into your sophomore and junior season years, maybe you're going to specialize a little bit more. But I think just continuing to get touches as much as possible and to build that strength and that quickness, that base athleticism, like we say, is going to be really important.
Great. Can you hear me, Coach? Oh, good. Here's another one. think we're having technical difficulties. Um, yeah, Coach Julia, can you hear me? Okay. Well, something, I think we lost Coach. I'm now the host. So if you have any other questions that you would like to ask Coach Julia, you can post them on the chat here and I'll copy and paste them into an email. I know Coach Julia uh, not real well, but I know her because my older daughter plays for Judson. So Coach Julia's her coach, and I can send those questions to Coach Julia and she can give you those answers and I can then forward those answers back to you. So if you want to ask any other questions, just post them in the chat function. Oh, I think she might be coming back. Hold on. Yeah, Coach Julia, can you hear me? Yeah.
Okay, now you can hear me.
Oh, perfect.
Good feedback. My laptop just kicked me off, so I'm on my phone now, but
Oh,
sorry
well,
if that
thanks.
happened.
There was another question about playing multiple sports, if you saw that in the chat.
I
Playing multiple sport
didn't.
in college. So somebody who's very motivated here.
Can you read it to me? My chat on my phone isn't showing anything before I joined.
Oh, sure. It says, do you think that playing multiple sports in college would be more beneficial or an interference?
Oh, great question. Most of the time, I would say it's an interference. Unless you are very talented in two sports that are in different seasons, it is really hard to play two sports in college. So at some point, like I said, maybe your freshman, sophomore, junior year, you are going to probably want to figure out which one you like best and go with that. There are a very few amount of athletes who do play multiple sports in college. It's really, really hard. Playing a college sport is a massive time commitment. And so having to do two sports just doubles that time commitment while also trying to be a student and earn a degree. I have had maybe two athletes while I've been at Judson who do both volleyball and track. Volleyball is usually in the fall, and track is in the spring. And so it has worked in the past, but I've never had an athlete who's done it all 4 years. They usually end up specializing because it ends up being too much. So at some point, you don't have to do it if you're in seventh, eighth, or ninth grade, but I would figure out which one you like best and kind of try to pursue that.
Yeah, that's a good point. I was an assistant coach at Wheaton College 2 or 3 years ago, and we had one of our setters also played softball.
This is Kelly.
Um, what was that? I'm sorry.
Was it Kelly Thornton?
Yeah, I mean, just an amazing athlete. One of the
Yeah,
best athletes I've ever been around. The downside to it, though, by her senior year, her body was just really breaking down from
yeah,
just so much overuse in both sports. I mean, she was playing between softball and volleyball, just playing pretty much 12 months a year, and her body.
right,
Actually, I don't think she was able to play in the conference tournament because she was having so many injuries.
right,
That's one of the downsides to that. But
right. So it is possible, but again, it's quite the commitment.
right,
And at a D3 school, you have less weeks that you can even play in the off season, which gave her the opportunity to do a little bit more probably with that. Whereas D2 and AIA and D1, you're going to practice more in your off season than you are able to at the D3 level. So each level kind of has its pros and cons that way.
well, that's a good point. Um, I just had two quick questions, and then we'll let you go, unless anybody else has a question. One of the questions, because I coached sand volleyball for several years up until last year. I gave it up. But what's your thought on sand volleyball's benefits to helping a player to achieve the goal of playing collegiately?
Yeah, I think sand volleyball is an awesome tool to use to kind of better your indoor skills. We find that our athletes who play sand, who have played sand or play sand best, usually have the best ball control um, of everyone in our gym. So if you're able to successfully play and move in the sand and do what you need to do, your ball control is going to translate really well um, to the indoor court that way. I would say that's usually probably the biggest pro that we find in our sand volleyball athletes. There are some other things when it comes to like being aggressive and diving that the sand can kind of help maybe like stimulate in yourself if you're not necessarily finding you're super comfortable with the floor or the gym floor that way. But for the most part, I think sand volleyball is just a huge asset when it comes to bettering everybody's all around skill. You're going to, even if you're a middle and you play sand volleyball, you're going to move better. You're going to be able to pass. You're going to be able to work out a system. You're going to be able to do all of those things. And if you're a pin hitter, even much more, so much more, the benefits kind of correlate from both sand to indoor.
Right. Like you said, it improves your athleticism too, I think, in
Yeah.
terms of even your leaping ability, of
Yeah.
all the resistance of playing in the sand. Yeah.
It's going to be better, in the fall that way. So definitely.
Then my last question was, what are your thoughts on, I know you talked about D1, D2, D3, and NAIA. What are your thoughts on playing in junior college or community college level?
Oh.
And then how much, different schools like Judson and other NAIA schools, but the other levels recruit from the JUCO level?
Sorry, I totally left them out. That's a really great point. So I'm glad you brought it up. Playing at a JUCO is also an awesome option, and kind of depending on where you are and where you want to be. Going to a JUCO for your first 2 years can sometimes be a huge help, both financially as well as in your athletic career. So from at Judson, we recruit from both high school and from junior college transfers. And so I think sometimes we have players who choose to go JUCO right away because sometimes you can get those first 2 years a lot cheaper than maybe going right into a 4-year university. Or maybe it's just a better transition from high school to junior college before you do step into that 4-year role. There's lots of reasons why people choose to do that. But one of the reasons, and I think this can be important, is that you can usually save some money in those first 2 years and then can go on to continue to play. I think there are some people who go and they play junior college for 2 years and then they kind of finish. And there are some people who play junior college with the idea of then being recruited somewhere else. And so I think it's good to keep those things in mind and to communicate that with your junior college coach about your goals and what you're looking for out of this experience. Are you looking to continue to develop so that you can get recruited somewhere else? Or is this kind of your main goal? Both are totally fine, but just making sure you kind of know what you're looking for and you can help communicate that to your JUCO coach is going to be a big help in that process.
Yeah. Well, boy, this was a great session. I appreciate your time. I think you offered a lot of great tips and inside information that families don't really get otherwise. So I appreciate you carving out extra time for us as well. That was awesome.
Yeah, happy to do it. It's always good to, kind of be able to talk. And like I said, help pass that knowledge on in the volleyball world is always a really good thing.
Yeah. And Judson, those who are still here, is in Elgin, so it's pretty close by. Unfortunately, I was going to say, hey, go see it, check out a match this season, but
We
can't
don't
quite do that.
right?
Even
All
I can't go.
are live streamed though, so you can watch.
Oh, that's true.
online.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. On Facebook Live, is that right?
Yeah, and if you go to our website, there's usually a little link, and I think it goes straight to Facebook Live for you.
Okay. Well, great. Well, thanks again, Coach, and I wish you the best this season, and thanks again for taking time out of your schedule.
Yeah, of course. It's really great to be here. Thanks so much for your time.
Yeah, no problem. And thanks for everybody who attended.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Jan.
Thank you.
All right, take care.
Okay, bye.